So let's start to jump into a real-world example here and actually start doing a little bit of sculpting. Now I'm going to go up and turn on symmetry on the X once again. Let's grab our push tool, nice big soft brush, control right drag to make it softer. I'm going to control drag in the viewport just to push in a little bit right here, just to push a little dimple in there. I'm going to push a little dimple here in the middle as well, and maybe one more off here to the side. Now I'm not going to be doing the entire chair in this case. We're just going to do a little section of it and see how that goes. Now next let's make this brush smaller. Control drag, control right drag to make it harder, and then make it small again. And I want to pull out a little section, something like that, to create a button. But I want to make sure all of these are the same size. Now we do have under our brush controls, we have an auto scale checkbox. If that is not checked, which is the default by the way, then I set this brush to a certain size, I make a button, and then say I zoom in some and make a button, that one's way too small, right? And then if I zoom out and make one, it's way too big because the brush size is based on the screen size. So zooming in gives you detail, zooming out gives you macro. And that makes good sense in some applications, but for something like this, that's not going to be ideal at all. So what we want to do is enable this auto scale option, and now I can create a button of whatever size I want. That looks about right. And then zoom in here, and as I do that, it's going to make the brush bigger as necessary to match that original one. If I zoom out a little bit and do it again, it's going to make the brush smaller in order to, again, match those others. Really nice. Now, you do want to make sure that you do this at the appropriate subdivision level as you're working. So actually, what I want to do is go back here to level 3, for example. So we have very little going on here. Grab the push tool, make a nice big soft brush with that right mouse and that control right mouse. And I'm going to puff up this area here in between these guys. Something like that, so we get some nice fluffy action happening in these big areas. Maybe right up here as well. That might be a little bit much. Just puff that out some, puff this out a little bit there. Nice. And then I'm going to make it smaller and control drag between those to start to create the lines that go between these things a little bit. Something like that. Maybe I'll control drag down here to push that back some. We'll go up to subdivision level 4. See a little bit more of what we're doing here. Let's control drag across here. So we're just starting to rough in what we think these shapes are going to be here. Again, at whatever the lowest possible subdivision level for a given task. And then we'll go to level 5. We'll get a little bit more. Now I'm seeing that these buttons were a little bit premature, right? They're a little bit bigger than I think I want them to be. So I'm actually going to go to my smooth tool here and just smooth this stuff out again, because we really don't need that level of detail at this point. Just erase those right out of there using that smooth tool. And then when I'm ready, I can get in here and start to do some more detailed sculpting. Let's grab our center pinch tool here. I'm just going to pinch this stuff in right here in the middle. Let's pinch some of this stuff in down here in the trough at the bottom. And this one as well. And finally this one as well. So we start to get a little bit more definition in these areas. And then when I'm ready, I can start to flatten this stuff back out again. So I could grab, say, my push tool and kind of, let's control drag across this and then shift drag to smooth that out. And then finally, I like to take the flatten tool with a nice big hard brush, something like that, and just flatten out a given area. Now that's way too big again. I'm getting ahead of myself. There we go. So just flatten out a very small area for the button. Then I'll shift drag to smooth it. Then I'm going to grab my push command. Nice hard brush, something like that. Just push that out to create that button. There we go, just like that. So we can create a button here again, and another one here. And in doing this, we can go round and around and around, creating more and more detail until we're happy with it. And in areas like this, you can always go back and forth between smooth and pinch to get these things looking just the way that you want. Now, as I mentioned, we can't blow holes in our geometry using these tools, unfortunately, but we can kind of smudge things around to make them overlap. So I could grab some of this stuff. I'm just going to, let's just take this area here like that. I'm just going to smudge it right over the top here to start to hide some of this geometry. So we get a little bit of a fold starting to happen there. And then I'll shift drag to smooth that back out again. And you can go round and around to get as much detail as you need. So, there we go. Let's grab this, smooth that out. There we go. Little by little. So with that, I think that's pretty much what you need to know. There's a little bit more here to do with P-sub sculpting, though, and that is with masking. We can do some really interesting things with masking. So, for example, let's say I want to do some more sculpting that goes right into this button area, but I don't want to mess up the button. I've already done my button detail, and I don't want to change it. So let's go to our masking tool here, make a hard brush, and I'm just going to mask off this area so that whatever I do now is not going to accidentally mess up that button. I'm also going to grab the smooth tool here and just kind of blur the edges of this a little bit. Then once again, grab that paint tool and make sure we get nice hard detail right in the middle, because we definitely don't want to move any of that button around. Excellent. Then I could grab my push command. You'll notice as I push right up to this edge, it's not going to mess up that button. That button will be protected. So I could jump in here. Let's go down to a lower subdivision level for a second. Get a little bit of detail there. Go back up. You can see we haven't messed that up, fortunately. Get in here, do the same thing. Smooth some of this out. And when I'm ready to clear my mask, I just go down here to, I could either erase the mask using an erase tool, or we can go down below and just click on Clear Mask to clear that out. And now we're back to unmasked, unfiltered sculpting. Okay, and also be sure to play around with the brush presets as well. Like I said, I don't happen to have those installed at the moment, but definitely install those, play around with them, and see if there are any that suit your purposes. It'll be fun to get textures in here, all kinds of useful tools in there to mess around with. So I'm going to fast motion through the rest of this sculpting exercise. You'll see me doing it from end to end if you want, or what I recommend is just jump in there and start playing, folks. This is Play-Doh. Have a good time, play with it, make sure to save your work as you go, because things can go awry with sculpting, and we'll see you on the other side.